And they were both 6 feet 4 inches tall, and I was sitting down, and they were standing up, and they looked at me and said, "Isn't it about time you stayed home?"
Maureen O'Hara couldn't stand him. She despised him more than anyone. Born Maureen Fitzsimons on August 17, 1920, in a quiet suburb of Dublin, Ireland, she came into this world with fire in her soul and ambition in her eyes. Raised in a proud Irish household where creativity and discipline went hand in hand, she grew up surrounded by music, storytelling, and strong opinions. From a young age, she knew the stage was calling her name. At the Abbey Theatre, Ireland's national theatre, she trained hard, sharpening her voice, perfecting her diction, and studying drama like it was a battlefield. Even back then, you could tell she was not meant to blend in. She was built to stand out. With blazing red hair, porcelain skin, and sharp green eyes that could cut through a camera lens, O'Hara had a look that demanded attention. Black and white film barely did her justice, but when Technicolor arrived, it was game over. She lit up the screen like a wildfire.
Seriously?
Yeah. And they thought they were going to get a great argument from me, and I said, okay, fine. So I quit.
In the late 1930s, actor Charles Laughton saw her talent and instantly knew she was different. He didn't just notice her, he believed in her. He signed her to his production company and cast her in Jamaica Inn in 1939, directed by Alfred Hitchcock himself. That role launched her into the spotlight fast, and the same year she stunned audiences as Esmeralda in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, starring opposite Laughton's powerful Quasimodo. Just like that, Hollywood had a new force to deal with. Her move from British cinema to Hollywood felt smooth and natural, like she had always belonged there. She didn't ease into stardom, she claimed it. Audiences were drawn to her not just because she was stunning, but because she carried herself with intelligence, confidence, and serious backbone. At a time when many actresses were boxed into soft, helpless roles, O'Hara refused to shrink herself. She brought strength, attitude, and self-respect to every character she touched. She wasn't playing damsels. She was playing women who could hold their own and then some. O'Hara made it clear she had standards. She turned down weak roles and chased characters with grit, pride, and emotional depth. In films like How Green Was My Valley, 1941, The Black Swan, 1942, and Sinbad the Sailor, 1947, she proved she could handle drama, adventure, and romance without missing a beat. When How Green Was My Valley took home the Academy Award for Best Picture, it sealed the deal. Maureen O'Hara was no passing trend. She was a powerhouse, and Hollywood knew it. Then came the legendary collaborations that turned her into a cinematic icon. Working with director John Ford and screen giant John Wayne, O'Hara became part of something bigger than just movies. She became part of film history. Her chemistry with Wayne wasn't fake or forced. It felt real, raw, and electric. There was tension, there was spark, there was heart. Together, they delivered classics like Rio Grande, 1950, The Quiet Man, 1952, and McClintock, 1963, films that still hold weight decades later. Out of all of them, The Quiet Man stands tall as their crown jewel. As Mary-Kate Danaher, O'Hara poured fierce Irish pride and emotional fire into every single scene. She didn't just act, she owned it. Her glares had power, her silences spoke volumes, and her vulnerability hit hard. That performance didn't just boost her fame, it locked her in as a legend. She showed the world that a woman could be tender and tough at the same time, and she did it without ever losing her dignity. She also pushed back hard against Hollywood's obsession with reshaping people into something they were not. Studios loved polishing accents, changing names, and sanding down personalities, but Maureen O'Hara refused to be remodeled. She held tight to her Irish roots, her natural voice, and her fierce pride. She once boldly said, "I'm the only leading lady in Hollywood who can speak with an Irish accent," and never had to lose it. That wasn't just a clever line. It was a direct challenge to an industry that tried to water people down. As the years passed, O'Hara didn't disappear. She simply moved with strategy and confidence. She chose her film and television roles carefully, never letting anyone box her in or cheapen her image. At the same time, she balanced family life and stepped into bold business moves that shocked people who underestimated her. One of the wildest turns, running an airline with her third husband, Charles Blair, a decorated World War II aviator and respected commercial pilot who matched her fearless energy. Together, they were not just stars in different fields. They were two strong personalities chasing risk and adventure at full speed. Then, in 1978, tragedy hit hard when Blair died in a plane crash. The loss was crushing and deeply personal. But O'Hara refused to let grief erase her strength. Instead of retreating, she leaned into her resilience. Years later, she released an honest autobiography that caught readers off guard with how open she was. In her own words, she shared the victories, the heartbreak, the battles, and the stubborn independence that defined her life. It was not a sugar-coated Hollywood story. It was raw truth from a woman who had nothing left to prove. In 2014, the industry that once tried to shape her finally stood up and applauded her.
Did you ever have any regrets?
No, I had the most wonderful life. I flew all over the world with Charlie. We went round the world twice in a seaplane.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences honored O'Hara with an honorary Oscar, recognizing her lifetime of impact and power on screen. When she stepped onto that stage, graceful, steady, and glowing with quiet pride, the entire room felt the weight of her legacy. Decades had passed, trends had changed, but her presence still commanded respect. It was not just an award, it was overdue acknowledgement. That backbone she showed in later years had been there from the very beginning. Back in 1939, at just 19 years old, O'Hara secretly married English film producer George H. Brown. They met during the filming of Alfred Hitchcock's Jamaica Inn, and the connection moved fast. Young and swept up in ambition and new fame, she made the bold decision to marry away from public attention and studio chatter. But the relationship could not survive the pressures building around them. By 1941, the marriage was annulled, closing that chapter quickly but painfully. The experience left marks, yet it also sharpened her understanding of strength and self-worth.
He was a general in the Air Force too, and so I got to live all the wonderful adventures that I had only acted out on the back of the Fox and the Universal lot. So I was living those adventures.
That same year, she married again, this time to American film director William Houston Price. They had worked together on projects including Dance, Girl, Dance, and their partnership grew from there. For a while, the future looked hopeful and stable, but behind the scenes, serious challenges emerged. Price struggled with chronic alcoholism, and that strain slowly weighed down the marriage. In the middle of those storms, though, came a bright light. Her daughter, Bronwyn Bridget Price, born on June 30th, 1944. Motherhood became the role that mattered most to Maureen O'Hara. She poured love, focus, and fierce protection into raising her daughter, determined to create a steady and caring home. She wanted warmth, security, and pride to surround her child every single day. But while she smiled in public, the pressure at home was real. William Houston Price's battle with alcoholism cast a long shadow over their marriage, bringing emotional strain and instability. The tension tested O'Hara's patience, her resilience, and her heart. But if there was one thing she never did, it was give up easily. After nearly 10 exhausting years of trying to hold her marriage together, Maureen O'Hara made a painful but powerful decision. She filed for divorce in 1951. It was not dramatic for show, it was survival. She knew she could not keep sacrificing her peace and stability. Walking away was heartbreaking, but it also snapped something back to life inside her. That moment became a turning point. She reclaimed control, rebuilt her confidence, and stepped forward stronger than ever. Suddenly, she was facing Hollywood's brutal pace while raising her daughter on her own, and she did it with grit and dignity that shocked anyone who doubted her. Then in 1953, a new chapter opened, and it came with glamour, intensity, and global flair. O'Hara began a passionate relationship with Enrique Parra, a wealthy Mexican banker and influential political figure who brought a whole new world into her life. He was smooth, powerful, and carried himself with quiet authority. Their romance stretched nearly 15 years, becoming one of the longest and most meaningful relationships she ever had. With Parra, she stepped into a lifestyle filled with luxury, diplomacy, and high-level conversations that went far beyond film sets and studio meetings. Parra had charisma that filled a room, and O'Hara matched him step for step. Together, they moved through elite circles, formal events, and international gatherings that felt straight out of a movie script. Their connection was deep and layered, built on admiration and shared ambition. They never made it official with marriage, but what they had was real and lasting for a long time. Still, distance, demanding schedules, and cultural differences slowly created space between them. When they finally parted ways, it was not explosive or bitter. O'Hara continued to speak of Parra with respect and affection, proving that not every love story has to end in chaos. That relationship left a mark on her life that she never denied. Then came 1968, the year everything shifted again. At 48, O'Hara met Charles F. Blair Jr., and this time it was different. Blair was no ordinary man. He was a decorated U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, a trailblazer in transatlantic aviation, and chief pilot for Pan American World Airways. On top of that, he founded Antilles Airboats, a bold seaplane service operating across the Caribbean waters. He was disciplined, daring, and driven, qualities that instantly caught her attention. From their first connection, there was undeniable chemistry. O'Hara admired his intelligence and courage, and he respected her strength and independence. They were not chasing headlines. They were building partnership. Their marriage was grounded in loyalty, laughter, and shared adventure. Blair did not compete with her fame or try to control her spotlight. Instead, he encouraged her to slow down, breathe, and finally live without constant pressure from studios and critics. And she embraced that change fully. After years in front of cameras and under scrutiny, O'Hara stepped away from the constant spotlight to focus on life with Blair. She supported his aviation projects, learned the business side of his ventures, and found satisfaction in something steady and real. The red carpets faded into the background, replaced by open skies and quieter days. For the first time in decades, she was not chasing roles. She was living on her own terms. As if losing Blair was not enough pain for 1 year, 1978 delivered another brutal shock. Maureen O'Hara was diagnosed with uterine cancer, a diagnosis that would have crushed many people. It was frightening, serious, and impossible to ignore. But she did not fold under pressure. Staying true to the iron will that defined her whole life, she faced surgery head-on and pushed through recovery with steady courage. Doctors handled the medical fight, but O'Hara brought the grit. Against the odds, she made a full recovery, once again proving that setbacks did not get the final word in her story. The years after Blair's passing were quieter, filled with reflection and private grief. She carried his memory with deep loyalty, speaking of him with love and respect. The red-haired star who once commanded the screen still had fire, but now it burned in a different way. It was not about fame anymore. It was about endurance. Fans still saw the legend from the quiet man, but those close to her saw something even stronger, a woman who had survived loss, illness, and pressure without losing her dignity. And even in those later years, she did not soften her voice when it came to fairness and accountability. O'Hara had been one of the earliest actresses to challenge the unhealthy power dynamics inside the old studio system. At a time when many performers felt forced to stay silent to protect their careers, she refused to pretend everything was fine. She spoke openly about misconduct and about the pressure actresses faced behind closed doors. That kind of honesty was rare in that era and risky. Her boldness was far ahead of public conversation. Long before discussions about workplace accountability became common, O'Hara was already calling out behavior she believed crossed the line. She insisted on respect and refused to let powerful figures intimidate her into silence. That stance earned her both admiration and tension within the industry. Some respected her backbone, others saw her as difficult, but she never backed down from what she felt was right. She addressed the so-called casting couch culture decades before it became widely discussed. In a candid 1957 interview, O'Hara stated that she had been insulted and humiliated after rejecting inappropriate advances, and she made it clear she would not compromise her values for roles. At the time, such public honesty from a leading actress was almost unheard of. Many expected her to stay quiet and protect the studio image, but she chose transparency over comfort. She was not chasing drama. She was drawing boundaries. Standing firm came with consequences. While others advanced by staying agreeable, O'Hara accepted that speaking up might cost her opportunities. Even so, she continued working with major talents, directors like John Ford and co-stars such as John Wayne and Tyrone Power. She carried herself professionally, delivering strong performances while holding on to her principles. Behind the glamour, she remained alert and guarded, determined not to let anyone strip away her self-respect. In later interviews and in her memoir, she became even more open about her experiences. She did not hide behind vague statements. She described situations plainly and made her stance clear. Among the most complicated chapters of her career was her intense professional relationship with director John Ford. Their collaboration produced classic films, but it was layered with friction, sharp exchanges, and emotional tension that people whispered about for years. John Ford was a giant in Hollywood history. His work shaped American cinema with films like The Grapes of Wrath, Stagecoach, and The Searchers, leaving a permanent mark on the industry. On set, his creative vision was powerful and undeniable. But those who worked closely with him also saw another side, a man known for a strict, sometimes harsh directing style. He could be moody, demanding, and unpredictable. His brilliance was real, but so was the pressure that came with working under him. No one felt John Ford's chaos more sharply than Maureen O'Hara. Together, they created films that later became classics, especially The Quiet Man, 1952. On screen, it looked like pure magic, romance glowing against the Irish countryside, tension that felt electric, and chemistry that audiences believed with their whole hearts. Viewers saw warmth, charm, and a love story that felt timeless. But once the cameras stopped rolling, the atmosphere could shift fast. What looked gentle and poetic on film sometimes felt tense and unpredictable behind the scenes. Years later, O'Hara decided to speak openly about that experience, and her version was intense. She described Ford as more than just strict. According to her, he could be manipulative, moody, and cutting with his words. She said his behavior sometimes moved beyond tough direction into personal humiliation. There were moments, she recalled, when he criticized her sharply in front of cast and crew, creating an uncomfortable silence on set. The pressure was heavy and everyone could feel it. She believed his reactions were not always about the work, but about emotions he struggled to manage. Over time, O'Hara came to see Ford's behavior as complicated and layered. She felt there was an unspoken tension between them, a mix of admiration, frustration, and unresolved feelings. In her view, his strict upbringing and reserved personality may have made it hard for him to process those emotions in a healthy way. Instead of addressing them directly, she believed he channeled that intensity into control on set. Authority became his shield and sometimes his weapon. One of her most talked about memories was her claim that Ford once slapped her during filming, saying it would help bring out stronger emotion in a scene. Even in an era when directors often pushed actors hard, that moment stood out as crossing a serious boundary. O'Hara made it clear she did not accept that treatment quietly. She confronted the situation with firmness and self-respect, signaling that no role was worth losing her dignity. She was not there to be intimidated, and she made that message unmistakable. That resistance shifted their dynamic. O'Hara later reflected that her refusal to be submissive both frustrated and intrigued Ford. She did not avoid his gaze or shrink under pressure. She stood steady. That made her different from many others he worked with. In a strange way, that tension fueled the performances that audiences loved. She became someone he challenged constantly, yet also relied on deeply. Respect and conflict lived side by side in their partnership. What truly set O'Hara apart was her decision to speak about these experiences publicly years later. During a period when powerful industry figures were rarely questioned, she chose honesty over silence. She did not share her story to create scandal, but to shed light on the reality many women faced behind studio doors. At a time when speaking up could damage a career, she showed boldness that was far ahead of public conversation. That kind of courage carried weight. Importantly, O'Hara did not reduce Ford to a simple villain. She described him as a man of extremes, capable of brilliance and capable of harshness. She acknowledged his artistic genius while also pointing out the emotional turmoil that shaped his behavior. Her perspective was layered, not vengeful. She seemed to understand that talent and flaws can exist in the same person, even when those flaws cause real harm. That balance gave her words credibility and strength. She also spoke candidly about the cost of refusing to participate in Hollywood's unhealthy power culture. O'Hara stated that she rejected inappropriate advances, even when influential men hinted her career could suffer. She recalled being warned that if she did not go along, opportunities might disappear. That kind of pressure was real and intimidating, but she chose principles over shortcuts. She would rather lose a role than lose herself. Some people in the press were stunned by how bold she was, but plenty of others respected her for it. When Maureen O'Hara spoke, she did not whisper or soften her message. Her voice carried the same force she showed on screen, clear, fearless, and impossible to brush aside. Raised in Ireland with strong Catholic values that emphasized dignity, discipline, and honor, she held on to those lessons tightly. Hollywood lights did not erase her roots. Fame never rewrote who she was at her core. Even when the industry pushed back, she did not retreat. If doors quietly closed because she refused to play along with unhealthy power games, she accepted that and kept moving. O'Hara selected roles with intention, choosing characters who reflected her own backbone, strong-willed women, protective mothers, heroines who demanded respect instead of begging for it. In The Quiet Man, Miracle on 34th Street, and How Green Was My Valley, her performances felt authentic because they were rooted in truth. The pride and courage audiences saw were not an act. They were part of her real personality. She demanded fairness long before that conversation became common. At a time when many actresses were encouraged to smile, comply, and avoid confrontation, O'Hara set boundaries clearly. That stance alone made her stand out. She negotiated carefully, protected her image, and insisted on professional respect. It was not loud rebellion, it was steady resistance. And that steady resistance quietly opened doors for other women who watched how she handled herself. Her refusal to bow to the darker corners of the studio system positioned her as an early trailblazer. Long before public movements pushed for accountability in entertainment, O'Hara had already spoken about the pressure actresses faced behind the scenes. In her era, such honesty was often dismissed. Some labeled her difficult simply because she would not stay silent. But with time, the culture began to shift, and her early warnings felt less controversial and more prophetic. History gave her words new weight. By the time Hollywood began seriously examining its past, O'Hara had already stepped back with her dignity intact. She was honored not only for her unforgettable film roles, but also for the moral strength she demonstrated throughout her life. She had navigated fame, loss, illness, and industry politics without surrendering her values. That kind of consistency is rare. She proved that success does not have to come at the cost of self-respect. Her legacy goes beyond the screen. Yes, she left behind a catalog of beloved films, but she also left behind an example. She showed that standing firm can cost you in the short term, yet protect you in the long run. She modeled what it looks like to carry confidence without arrogance and strength without cruelty. That balance made her unforgettable. On October 24, 2015, Maureen O'Hara passed away peacefully in her sleep at her home in Boise, Idaho, at 95 years old. Her death from natural causes closed a life that stretched nearly a century, a life filled with artistry, determination, heartbreak, and bold choices. It was not just the end of a film career. It was the closing chapter of a woman who had faced every storm head-on and refused to be defined by anyone else's expectations. And even after the cameras stopped rolling for good, her impact did not fade. That striking red hair, those commanding eyes, and those powerful portrayals of independent women remain etched in cinema history. She was not simply another classic Hollywood actress. She was a symbol of strength wrapped in elegance. Films like The Quiet Man, How Green Was My Valley, and Miracle on 34th Street continue to introduce new generations to her presence. In every frame, you can see that signature blend of grace and fire, a reminder that softness and strength can stand side by side without canceling each other out. Maureen O'Hara's story still resonates because it is not just about fame. It is about boundaries, resilience, and the courage to protect your name when others test it. Long after the applause faded, her reputation for integrity continued to shine. That is the kind of legacy that does not dim with time. It only grows stronger. Even in her later years, Maureen O'Hara never lost that spark that made her unforgettable. She stood tall as a symbol of resilience, dignity, and quiet authority, proof that real power does not have to shout to be felt. When she stepped away from acting in the 1970s, it was not because the spotlight dimmed. It was because she made a choice. She chose peace over pressure, privacy over constant performance. After decades of battling studio politics, personal heartbreak, and public scrutiny, she decided she had earned calm on her own terms. Yet even outside Hollywood, her influence did not fade. It moved through generations of actresses who saw her example and learned to protect their own voices. When O'Hara passed away, she was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, a place that reflects honor, courage, and national pride. There, she was reunited with her husband, Charles Blair, the decorated aviator she married in 1968. Blair had been more than a spouse. He was her partner in adventure, her steady support, and the great love of her later years. His tragic plane crash in 1978 left a lasting ache in her heart. Choosing to be buried beside him was not just tradition. It was devotion that stood the test of time. By joining Blair at Arlington, O'Hara's story closed with the same themes that shaped her entire life: loyalty, strength, and deep commitment. From the fiery young actress who refused to lose her Irish accent to the seasoned woman who spoke openly about industry misconduct, she lived boldly and honestly. She loved with intensity, worked with discipline, and defended her dignity at every stage. That consistency is what makes her legacy powerful even today. Maureen O'Hara was not just a Hollywood star with striking red hair and unforgettable roles. She was a woman who refused to bend when pressured, who faced illness and loss without surrendering her spirit, and who walked away from fame when it no longer served her peace. That kind of character leaves a mark far deeper than box office numbers ever could. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the remarkable life of Maureen O'Hara, make sure to like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful Hollywood stories just like this. Your support helps keep these stories alive and uncensored. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.